The corruption trial against Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has begun. He denies a series of charges, including allegedly trading favours for positive media coverage. He's repeatedly dismissed the case as a political witch hunt aimed at stopping him from staying in office. The 70-year-old has just forged a unity government after more than a year of political turmoil. Talia Shindlin is a political analyst and fellow at the Century Foundation. She joins us now from Tel Aviv. Thank you very much for speaking to us. Netanyahu is the country's first ever sitting prime minister to stand trial. There's been allegations and delays, and it's all finally come to a head. What is the significance of this and the scale of the potential political implications?
I think the main question here is, at this point, preliminary with regards to Netanyahu's actual guilt or innocence. The real problem is the role of the judiciary in Israeli society and the very foundations of Israeli democracy. And the reason is that the prime minister, instead of sitting trial and trying to make his case, has gone on a full-out rhetorical and policy-based assault on the judiciary. This is the culmination of about a decade of the right-wing leadership believing that the judiciary in Israel and arguing that the judiciary is somehow undermining governance and the will of the people. And this kind of idea has reached a fever pitch over the last number of months, as the prime minister himself has accused the entire judiciary, from the state prosecutor and the attorney general and police, of having joined forces with a sort of left-wing putsch. So the question is really whether the institutions of Israeli democracy can survive unscathed. Of course, there's generating enormous tension within the population between those who believe the prime minister has been framed on fabricated charges. They are referring to this as the Dreyfus trial, versus those who think that he is a corrupt prime minister and ought not to be serving in a democratic country.
Some of the public sentiment you talk about and this debate over Netanyahu's fitness for office was a key factor in 3 inconclusive elections. There is now finally a unity government in place, but how much do you think this trial will impact on the ability of that new government to actually run effectively and efficiently?
Well, it's a little bit hard to know because they disagree on some things, but not on others. In fact, on the only major issue that this government has allowed itself in its agreements to advance is annexation or extending Israeli sovereignty over parts of the West Bank. On everything else, for the first 6 months, this government and the Knesset are not supposed to pass laws at all. So they don't have too much to disagree on. They basically agree on the annexation. And the real question today is whether this government, with its 2 partners, Likud and Blue and White, will join forces in this attack on the judiciary, or whether Blue and White will act as a sort of restraining force and try to strengthen the role of the judiciary in Israeli society. And over the last 24 hours, this was already a point of dispute because Netanyahu and his Likud ministers really they all kind of rallied together as Netanyahu gave a scathing speech against the judiciary. And the Blue and White figures who had promised to uphold and strengthen the rule of law in Israel didn't say anything, didn't defend the judiciary openly yesterday when the trial opened. We understand that that's because they didn't want to rock the boat in this brand new coalition. So it seems as if it's either the coalition or, real defense of the Israeli institutions. And if Blue and White decides to ever take a more assertive stance on defending the judiciary, we just don't know if the coalition will hold.
And we'll be following that very closely. Talia Shindlin, thank you very much for your analysis, speaking to us from Tel Aviv.